question for you, Youth Man. Compared to JTR, is Perlisten on par with them, or does their technology and their speakers sound better with that tweeter? So here's what I've tried to tell people is that it's extremely difficult to compare to speakers, to subwoofers, especially for a couple of things. If it's not in the same room, not hooked up to the same equipment, and not even remotely close in time. I don't think my audible memory is good enough for me to fly out to another state, spend 3 days, hop back on a plane, come back home and go, oh, okay. And I'm listening in different rooms, different environments, and different times. So I don't think there's a good way to do that. And if I can claim that I can do that, I'm going to call you bluff and I'll put down the $1,000 like Joe did, because I don't think you can really do that. Our audible memory is not that good.
So if I ask you specific questions though, like from your like your gut, right? So you remember how you feel about things. Yeah. You may not be able to say like, all right, can you tell me the frequency response of that based on your listening? Like, what?
Here's what I can tell you.
You're feeling towards them, right?
I think they had a pair of 10-inch subwoofers, and I've yet to find a pair or even a single 10 or dual 10s that I was like, oh my goodness, that was crazy. You can ask Tim in the chat. He can not justify, but kind of back me up on this. They played a track, and when that bass kicked, I looked at Tim like, what the heck? I mean, like it slammed. And we're talking technically it's 4 10s because it's a push-pull configuration. Yeah. They had a pair of them. So there's 4 10s, but holy cow.
Well, and that track was ridiculous too, though, Michael.
It is.
I found the track that you were using. It had, what was it? What was it called again? Bjorn something 16-bit remix. If you look for it, it has to be the 16-bit remix because the first time I looked for it,
he's like,
I'm like, there's no bass on this thing. What is this guy talking about? And then I found 16-bit remix. I'm like,
no bass on this thing.
What? That thing was crazy. So that the track, first of all, is an awesome track. But I believe you. Now, if I ask you specific things, though,
like
try to put you on the spot a little bit, right?
All right, it's gonna suck because
if you had,
he's like, I don't know. Don't ask me.
Explaining
gut feeling. You're a gut feeling type of guy, right? You don't do measurements so much, right? You just go by like how you feel about it, right?
Perlistens are phenomenal. There's no doubt. I mean, think about this.
Sound quality. If you're a sound quality guy, like which one do you think people? Which one would you direct people towards? If they're like, you know what, my top priority is like accurate sound quality.
Yeah, and the reality is, I've heard both brands I've heard JTR in a bunch of different setups, probably 10 different home theaters, listening to music and movies. Phenomenal. I mean, I'm serious. Phenomenal. Detail, clarity, dynamics. Of course, they'll go loud. I mean, I don't think that's really
that's not a question. It's the dominus. That means what is it?
I'm talking about the JTR.
Oh, the JTR.
Yeah, I mean they'll get loud, but I don't really care about that part. I mean, I want something that sounds clean, that sounds just beautiful. I mean, Perlisten. I mean, honestly, same thing. I sat down and listened to 2 speakers with 2 subwoofers, and it was just gorgeous, man. Now at low volumes, I was like, it's okay, that's cool. But when they started getting up, and we never like cranked it, but we got up to a good volume, that's when I was feeling the vibe. I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm liking this.
See, I have, I go into stuff and I already have an idea what I think it would sound like, right? Yeah, so everybody has biases. Even any reviewer who says they don't, it's like they may not realize what their biases are. So my bias going into it, just looking at them and what they talk about, it seems like the Perlisten is just more of a, accuracy and can get loud. It just looks like that. They measure like that, the way they talk about them. But if you had to ask me, like, place a bet which one you think could get the loudest.
Well, loudest. Like I said,
I'm like, probably those huge JTRs. They're pretty big. I'm going with the JTRs.
You go with the biggest thing in the room. Yeah. Like, which one's going to be the loudest? That. Right?
I don't think you're going to have any problem with the Perlistens, though. And the cool thing that I heard from talking with Dan, the owner, is he shared with us how they take, one speaker, and when they make the next speaker, it has the same exact kind of fundamentals as the other one. And so when we're talking about timbre matching, it's more than just using the same tweeter or using the same, materials in the mid-range driver. I mean, it's legit, like as best as they can make it, a mini version of something else. So when they've got their big floor standing speaker, when they scale it down to a monitor speaker, yeah, it's not going to dig as deep, but that's based on cabinet volume, and it may not get quite as loud because, again, size. But as far as the detail, the intricacies that it's capable of reproducing, that's all there. That doesn't change. And so that's pretty cool.
And, I was impressed with the Monolith Encore, right? Because the floor standers, they also measure the same as the centers, tonality wise, and the bookshelf. You know who designed those, right? You do?
Yeah, Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan has done the owner of Perlisten has designed a ton of different companies, or for a ton of different companies.
How do you say Arundel?
Arundel or Arundel. Yeah, there's a bunch of companies that he's done, and he's such a humble dude. He would never come back and go, "Hey guys, this is what makes Perlisten great, is because I've designed all these speakers that you love." He'll never do that. He just says,
I think it's funny though. Go ahead. Sorry.
He just says, "Here's my speaker that I designed, and here's how it measures." And that's why they're really, really upfront with all their measurements. They want you to know what they measure. And then the other thing, the important reason why they went after the THX Dominus is because they're relatively a brand new company. And I saw somebody make a comment. They're like, "Well, that's kind of dumb for a brand new company to be. They're asking too much for their speakers." I'm like,
I don't think so. I think they.
What does that even matter?
I think they had to make a splash, right? They're a brand new company. What better way to make a splash than other than like, we are one of the only THX Dominus rated speakers.
Yeah.
Like,
and so who else did that? Monolith, right? When they came out with their speakers and their subs, THX, and when we talked to Hobie, he's like, why did you do that? He's like, well, because we're new and
it's kind of instant. It just gives credibility to it. Not that THX makes theirs better than somebody else, because you can have a speaker that measures just as well, but they chose not to pay for the licensing, and they could be just as good or even better than one that is THX certified. But by having the THX certified, you at least know, okay, that speaker has been tested and measured from THX themselves, and they give the stamp of approval, so they've met certain criteria at least.
Those might be my new end game speakers, though. After watching that video that you made and hearing what they're doing, I'm like, man, I would love to have some of those. Plus, that's without any DSP. I would still DSP them, even though, of course, you want to start off with a great speaker. And to me, those are a great speaker to start with. Like they're already very, very good. They're excellent. And so just add that touch of DSP, and now you have a ridiculous system.
You're
that's exactly what I said, Reginald.
Blasphemy right there, Joe.
Yeah.
DSP.
No, I'm sure they wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
They wouldn't mind. But yeah, I like those speakers a lot.
Yeah.
Those might be my end games.
I think they're onto something, man. That's for sure. And the other thing too, somebody said, well, they should have came out with a speaker. They should have went after other brands like whatever, SVS and Clips. I'm like, do you realize how hard it would be to enter that kind of market?
That's